would do would be to do the following. I would give you a summary of what the campaign finance law is in New York, literally an outline of its provisions in either a chart form or something similar. And I would look to Google the law and reference it and find out what has been the experience in the city about it. Have there been critical articles? Have there been widespread acclaim? Has there been frustration? What's kind of been out there? And the reason for doing it that way is to alert you to what either problems or joys there have been with it in the city, so you could question him about that. That would be the only thing that I could conceive of to do that's, again, beyond, because there's no point in canvassing. We've already canvassed the other cities in the state. There's no point in investigating the legality of it anymore. That I did last time, and I feel comfortable with the research that we did. So the only thing is, would you want that kind of information in advance of the next meeting, or do you want to wait until after?
You put quite a bit of time into this issue last year, didn't we? And you did quite a bit of investigative work.
I did the investigation. The investigation was again to determine its legality, and I gave you some of the parameters of what was legal, what was illegal, based on U.S. Supreme Court decisions. And we canvassed other municipalities. What we did not do was, because we didn't look to go forward, we did not in detail analyze the New York City law, nor did we investigate what the experience was with it, good, bad.
But you said it would have been a very expensive proposition to do that too, if you start getting into that.
If you start getting into it in terms of, well, what I would look to do now would not be that kind of investigation. This would be a preliminary thing in order to, in essence, give you enough information so that you would be briefed on what the New York City law does. What I would do is I would have one of our summer associates, who's a law student, whose hourly rate is even below what we normally charge, a ridiculously low rate for the city of Yonkers. We would have one of the summer associates do that and Google it. So the money will not be a significant issue in terms of the cost for the work. It's really a question of do you think that you would like that material or not? It doesn't matter to me one way or the other.
Last year there was not one other vocal support for this at all, and that's why it just never left the state.
That's, I think, true. That's right.
Again, I'm of the opinion to wait to see.
Yeah, you're going to send us the courtesy anyway, right?
Yep.
We have two proposals from Mark Blanchard, Deputy Corporation Counsel. The first one, he was simply forwarding, it appears they were simply forwarding something from the Yonkers Democratic Committee from Ken Jenkins. And it reads that we respectfully request that the Yonkers City Charter, Article 4, Section 2, be amended as follows. Notice to the clerk of appointments of majority and minority leaders. By the first Tuesday in January of each even-numbered year, the newly elected or re-elected majority and minority leader shall certify in writing to the clerk of the board that he or she was elected as a majority or minority leader at a duly convened caucus by a vote of a majority of all caucus members. We request this change to ensure the designated leader of a particular caucus in fact be selected by the members of the respective caucus. In addition, we respectfully request a modification of the term of the Yonkers City Clerk to a term of up to 2 years designated at the first council meeting in each even-numbered year. So that's a separate issue. The first issue is a notice to the clerk that the majority-minority leader was elected by their caucus.
What does it say now?
We do not have that information.
I don't believe this is anything now. In other words, there's not, my recollection is there's no such provision. In other words, he's looking to insert something into the charter that presently does not exist.
So what gave them the right to do what they did last year? Was that a code thing?
Well, what did they do?
Elect a majority and minority leader.
There is a provision in the charter, I don't know if it's in the charter, there is a reference to majority and minority leader. However, this is not referencing the power to make the appointment.
It's just letting people know that the appointment's been made, isn't it?
By the caucus.
Yeah.
So it implies a power.
It implies, yes, that's exactly right. It implies the power of the caucus. And I don't believe that there is a definition, in fact, I'm virtually certain that there is no definition of caucus, who the caucus members are, how they vote, what they do, who's eligible.
Do they have actually, forgive my ignorance, do they actually have power?
The caucus?
No, majority and minority.
They get extra
According to
money.
them.
I believe
Yeah,
there
they
is.
usually get a stipend.
Stipend.
They get a
Which could
stipend.
affect
Isn't there a
their
staffing
pension.
issue too? Isn't there a staffing?
I'm not sure if the staff has anything to do with that. I think the staff would be the position, not the individual.
I mean,
No, staff just, so there are budget implications
not of this proposal.
of the person being elected minority.
Yes.
Majority.
I think, doesn't this, I mean, you guys know politics better than I. Doesn't this have to do with some question of who was entitled to be majority or minority leader?
Oh, big
There-
time.
Yeah, there was a discussion on January 2nd that nobody, there was some dissension among council members about the change. But I don't see how that would change any,
Well, it's one of the things that is underlying this is clearly there is a question, and I'm not taking sides on this, but what is clear about this is there is a question about how the council is to select its majority and minority members. I think that would be a
Yeah.
fair reading of what
Right.
Mr. Jenkins is saying. The threshold question is, ought the Charter Commission be addressing or be involved in the internal workings of the city council and how its majority and minority leaders are selected? So that's to me the very most important threshold question. If you think that it's something that the commission ought to be considering and addressing even conceivably, well, then you can start to get into, do you think there should be a duly convened caucus, and what does a caucus mean, and should it be filed with the clerk, and all the rest of it?
So again, I'm back to my question is, what authority do they have on the city council? I mean, if there's no authority,
They have the authority to establish the rules of their own proceedings, which normally the selection of the majority and the minority
of their
leader
own proceedings in terms of the city council.
as a body.
Right, but as a body, the majority doesn't get to say that. The majority leader doesn't get to say that. The influence is,
Oh, I'm sorry, Joseph, I thought you meant, I see what you're saying.
does the minority or majority leader have any authority residing in the fact that they are the majority or minority leader?
That would be a matter that would normally be found in the rules of their proceedings.
It sounds like it's a rules for them to do.
Correct. That's right. Normally, it's true of every legislative body. One of the fundamental rules of the legislative body is that they establish the rules of their own proceedings. So the House of Representatives has them, the Senate has them in the United States, the New York State Assembly and the Senate have rules of their own proceedings, and so on and so forth. Whether the city of Yonkers City Council has established rules, I know they have the power to do so. And what this seems to be asking is asking the commission to inject this into the code when into the charter, when there is nothing in the charter, as I recall now, that addresses these matters at all in terms of how the majority and the minority leaders.
So I suggest we ask Steve to just at least confirm that there's nothing in the charter regarding this issue.
Now, did you want to invite, he's not a governmental official, and I think that...
he's an elected county legislator for part of the district.
Right, but he's not writing in that capacity.